Hello, and welcome. It is time to let go of all the burdens you've carried throughout the day. Give yourself this precious moment to finally rest. Let your body sink deep into your soft bed, and know that you don't have to hold yourself up anymore. Tonight, we will journey together into the quiet, profound wisdom of Zen Buddhism. We will explore the art of letting go, releasing the heavy mental stones, the old emotional burdens, and the exhausting need to control everything. This is a path toward finding that deep, unshakable peace that exists beneath the noise of the modern world. Please, close your eyes now. Take a deep breath in, feeling the cool air fill your chest and belly. And now, breathe out slowly, letting all the tension, all the effort, and all the resistance simply flow away. Do not try to think. Do not try to solve anything. Just allow yourself to soften, to surrender, to rest. Welcome to Lotus Whisper. It is deep night, and we are here to listen to the ancient stories that guide us back to stillness. Tonight, we begin the gentle, epic journey of learning how to let go. If these quiet moments bring you peace, please consider subscribing to the Lotus Whisper channel. Your support helps us keep this sanctuary of calm open for all who seek deep rest. Part 1. The Bucket of Suffering. Releasing Emotional Burden. The sun was just beginning to touch the high, jagged peaks of the mountains, casting long, sharp shadows across the valley floor. In a small, humble monastery, nestled by a silent forest, lived a community of monks. Among them was a very young man named Kaito, who had come to the monastery searching for freedom from the deep, throbbing ache of the world's suffering. Kaito was a monk of deep feeling, an old soul who seemed to feel the pain of every creature, every passing storm, and every human sorrow as if it were his own. If an old woman in the village wept over a lost child, Kaito's sleep would be broken by silent tears. If the master spoke of the cycle of rebirth and suffering, Kaito would feel the weight of countless lives pressing down on his small, thin shoulders. He had believed, and his breath came out in short, ragged sighs. Hakuin walked over and placed a quiet, steady hand on Kaito's shoulder. Kaito immediately looked up, startled, trying to hide the dampness on his cheek, which might have been sweat or tears. Kaito. The master's voice was like smooth, worn stone, gentle, yet firm. You carry the bucket as if it is made of lead, and you pour as if the smallest drop spilled means the end of the world. Tell me, what is weighing down your steps this morning? Kaito lowered his gaze to the wet ground. Master Hakuin, I am trying to follow the path of compassion, but how can I find peace when the world is so full of sadness? I feel the sorrow of the villagers, the hunger of the animals, and the endless struggle of all beings. I try to absorb it, to take it into myself, to lessen their load. But I find that the more I take in, the weaker I become. Soon, I will have nothing left, and the world will still be suffering. The master nodded slowly, his ancient eyes twinkling with a deep, knowing light. He looked at the well, then back at Kaito, and then down at the bucket that Kaito still clutched in his trembling hands. Ah, Kaito, Hakuin said softly, you have mistaken the bucket for the spring. Kaito frowned, puzzled. Master, you are carrying the suffering of the world in this small clay bucket, Hakuin explained, gesturing toward the vessel. And you believe that by keeping the bucket full of sorrow, you are being truly compassionate. But this bucket is your own heart. It is small, fragile, and easily cracked. When you fill it only with the grief of others, there is no room left for your own strength, your own light, or your own wisdom. He knelt down and pointed to the clear, deep water of the well itself. The well, Kaito, that is your true, original nature. It is the inexhaustible source of stillness, energy, and pure awareness. When you are empty, when you are exhausted, when your bucket is overflowing with pain, what good are you to the thirsty world? You make compassion. It is merely sympathetic exhaustion. It makes two people weak instead of one strong person helping another. True compassion, karuna, is an action that flows from an abundance of peace. It is the clear water flowing from the inexhaustible spring, the well of your inner stillness and awareness. To be truly helpful, to truly be a quiet sanctuary for others, you must first ensure the well is deep and clean. You must learn the art of the loving detachment. This detachment is not coldness, it is not indifference. It is the discipline of creating a small, quiet space between their emotion and your core self. It is the awareness that says, I see your pain, I feel for you, I will sit with you in this moment. But your pain is not mine to carry, only to witness and support. Imagine yourself now, lying comfortably in your bed. Imagine that your heart is indeed a beautiful, smooth clay bucket. Think of all the emotions you've collected today or this past week that do not truly belong to you. Perhaps a friend's worry, a colleague's anger, or a family member's anxiety. You took them in, believing it was the only way to care. Now, picture yourself standing gently by the edge of that great, quiet well, the deepest part of your own being. It is eternally still, eternally cool, eternally full. Take a slow, deep breath in, gathering all the heavy, dark, borrowed waters from your clay bucket. Hold them lightly, without judgment. And as you exhale, simply pour them out onto the quiet, nourishing earth around the well. Let them flow out, releasing them back to the universe, back to the one who originally owned them. They are not yours to keep. Breathe in, emptiness. Breathe out, release. Your bucket may feel lighter, it may feel empty. This emptiness is not a deficit, it is the necessary space. It is the prerequisite for being refilled. Now, slowly, gently, dip your empty bucket into the deep, clear waters of the well. Your own inherent peace, your own boundless awareness. Always there. Your rest is sacred. Your peace is your greatest offering to the world. Let the gentle discipline of loving detachment guide you into a deep, unbroken sleep. The river crossing, setting down mental stones. We move now from the burdens of emotional absorption to the burdens of mental retention, the tendency we have to carry thoughts, decisions, and past moments long after they have served their purpose. There is a famous Zen story, a small but sharp koan, that cuts through this mental habit like a smooth, swift blade. It speaks to the enormous unseen weight we choose to carry every day. Two Zen monks, Tanzan and Aikido, were traveling together down a long, muddy road. The rain was pouring, making the path slippery and treacherous. As they turned a corner, they came upon a beautiful young woman who was dressed in a fine silk kimono. She stood beside a deep puddle, unable to cross because the mud would ruin her delicate clothes. Tanzan, without a word, immediately picked up the woman, carried her across the puddle, and placed her gently on the dry ground on the other side. He bowed, and the two monks continued on their way in silence. The monks walked on for many more hours. The sun came out, the mud dried, and the road became a pleasant, leafy track. But Aikido, the second monk, grew increasingly agitated. Finally, unable to contain himself any longer, he burst out, "Tanzan, how could you do that? We are monks. We are sworn not to go near women, especially beautiful young ones. It is dangerous and improper. Why did you carry her?" Tanzan stopped walking, turned to his companion, and smiled a wide, gentle smile. "I set the girl down hours ago," he said simply. "Are you still carrying her?" This story, the koan of the two monks, is not about the action of carrying the woman. It is about the much greater burden of carrying the thought of the action. Aikido was physically free. His feet were on the dry path. The sun was on his back. But mentally, he was still standing by the muddy road, his mind furiously replaying the scene, judging it, debating it, and allowing it to poison his peace long after the event itself had vanished. He had turned a fleeting
Mind, left unchecked, has a profound and exhausting gravitational pull toward repetition. It loves to create a perpetual present out of a temporary past. It demands to relitigate every mistake and pre-worry every potential challenge. This is the source of insomnia, the root of restless anxiety. The practice of letting go is not about controlling the thought. It is about recognizing the thought as a non-essential weight and simply choosing to set it down. Just as Tanzan put the woman on the dry bank and walked away, we must consciously release the mental load. Imagine now that your mind is a vast, open sky, and every thought, every worry, every memory you are carrying is a small, passing cloud. The cloud is the difficult conversation. It appears, it moves, it changes shape. You can watch it, you can see the edges of it, but you do not have to climb into it and ride it. You are the sky. You are the vast, unchanging awareness that simply observes the clouds. When a cloud of worry appears, a thought about tomorrow's task, do not chase it. Do not try to fight it or push it away. That only gives the cloud more energy. Instead, simply name it in a soft internal whisper, worry, and then gently release your grasp. Allow the air of your awareness to carry it onward. It may return. Thoughts are persistent travelers. If the cloud of regret returns, simply whisper the name, regret, and allow it to move on again. This is the key to deep rest. Realizing that you are not your thoughts, and your thoughts are not commands. They are merely suggestions, echoes, and residual weights. And you, the awareness, have the sovereign power to decide whether to pick them up or let them pass. When you lie down to sleep, give yourself permission to consciously unload the mental stones. Feel the effort of carrying them. The slight tension in your forehead, the tightness in your jaw, the rapid flickering of thoughts. This tension is the effort of clinging. Now, with a long, slow exhale, let your entire mental landscape soften. Tell yourself softly, I set this down now. You are not solving the problem. You are simply declaring a truce for the night. The thought, the problem, the memory, Captured perfectly in the classic story known as The Farmer and His Horse. There was once an old Chinese farmer who lived a simple life in a quiet village. He was known for his peaceful demeanor and his quiet, unhurried wisdom. He owned only one horse, a strong, magnificent animal that was the envy of all his neighbors. This horse was his most valuable asset, essential for plowing his small fields. One morning, the stable door was left unlatched, and the horse bolted, running away into the distant mountains. The neighbors, hearing the news, rushed to the farmer's humble cottage to offer their sympathies. "Oh, what a terrible misfortune," they cried, shaking their heads. "How will you plant your crops? This is a great disaster." The old farmer listened quietly, nodding slowly. When they were finished, he simply said, "Maybe so, maybe not." The neighbors left, perplexed by his lack of despair. A week later, The farmer's missing horse returned, but it was not alone. It had brought with it 3 wild horses from the mountains, strong, unbroken stallions. The farmer now had 4 magnificent horses. The neighbors rushed back to his cottage, now filled with joy. "Oh, what wonderful luck!" they exclaimed, full of admiration. "This is a great blessing. Now you are rich." The farmer listened to their excited praises, and then, with the same quiet tone, he replied, "Maybe so, maybe not." The neighbors went away, once again confused by his lack of excitement. The very next day, the farmer's only son, a young man who was his hope for the future, tried to ride one of the newly captured wild horses. The horse reared up, and the boy was thrown violently to the ground, breaking his leg badly. The neighbors arrived immediately, their faces full of sympathy once more. "Oh, how tragic," they lamented. "Your son is injured and cannot help with the harvest. This is truly a terrible misfortune." The old farmer sat by his son's bedside, applying a clean bandage. He looked up and said, with the same calm neutrality, "Maybe so, maybe not." A few weeks later, the emperor's army marched through the "Go away." Both clinging and resisting drain our energy and steal our present peace. The farmer knew the deep truth. Life unfolds in an endless chain of cause and effect, where no single event is purely one thing. The seed of sorrow is always contained within great joy, and the seed of liberation is often hidden within apparent disaster. Everything is a piece of a much larger, constantly moving mosaic that only the passage of time can truly reveal. As you lie here, struggling to let go of tomorrow's unknowns, remember this wisdom. You may be lying awake, anxiously running scenarios about a future event, a difficult meeting, a pending decision, a personal conflict. Your mind is trying to force a good outcome and prevent a bad one. But tonight, give yourself permission to step outside of that cycle of judging and grasping. Instead of demanding a specific outcome, offer a soft, open acceptance to the flow of life. Let your inner voice echo the farmer's simple, profound words. Maybe so, maybe not. Worry about a job change appears. You breathe out. Maybe so, maybe not. Let the event reveal its meaning when the time is right. An old success you miss suddenly surfaces in your mind. You breathe out. Maybe so, maybe not. The next thing will have its own shape. This is the practice of holding life lightly. It is not resignation. It is profound trust. It is the understanding that your deepest well-being does not depend on the exact form of things around you. It depends on your inner calm, which is not shaken by the coming and going of horses, good fortune, or apparent tragedy. Allow your body to soften further into the mattress. Release the tightness in your chest that comes from trying to predict and control. Let your mind become as open and spacious as the valley itself, ready to receive whatever the morning brings, without judgment, without clinging. You do not need to know the next step. You only need to trust the dance. Maybe so, maybe not. Rest now in that deep, unshakable trust. The unwritten page, transforming impeccable, possessing a rare blend of strength, grace, and effortless flow. One day, the master asked Seido to prepare a large scroll for a major ceremony, a scroll that would contain the central wisdom teaching of their lineage. Seido took up his finest brush, prepared the ink with meticulous care, and sat in deep meditation for an hour, allowing his mind to become completely still and empty. He began to write.
The brush moved like a quiet dancer across the silk, his hand steady and sure. Line after line was perfect, imbued with the deep stillness of his meditation. He came to the final, most important character, the character for mu, or emptiness, the very heart of the teaching. But in that final, crucial stroke, his hand twitched. A single, tiny, dark splatter of ink landed just beside the final brushstroke, marring the otherwise perfect character. Seido's heart sank. Hours of work, days of preparation, and the most important scroll of the year was ruined by one small, final mistake. He sat staring at the spot, his face growing hot with shame and frustration. He wanted to scream. He wanted to tear the scroll to pieces. A few minutes later, the master entered the room to check on his work. Seido immediately bowed low, unable to meet the master's eyes. "Master," he whispered, his voice thick with defeat, "I have failed you. I was so focused, yet in the final moment I made a careless mistake. The scroll is ruined. I must begin again." The master walked over to the scroll, silent for a long moment. He looked at the vast, clean space of the silk, at the beautiful, flowing characters, and finally at the tiny, dark imperfection. Then he did something utterly unexpected. He took a small, clean brush, dipped it lightly in water, and with infinite gentleness he blurred the edges of the splatter. He did not remove the spot, but he incorporated it, turning the sharp mistake into a small, hazy, abstract cloud that gave the perfect character a new, unexpected sense of depth and contrast. He smiled and looked at Seido. A life like a scroll. Unwritten page. The past is fixed, the mistake is made, but your present response to it, that is the clean, unwritten page that lies open before you right now, tonight. If your mind is keeping you awake by running old tapes of failure, try this practice of integrative remorse. Acknowledge the stain, softly name the mistake. Yes, I spoke unkindly. Yes, I was careless with that task. Do not argue with the past, but simply acknowledge it with clear-eyed acceptance. Locate the lesson, the essence. Ask not why you did it, but what it taught you. What pure wisdom emerged from the pain? Did it teach you to speak slower, to be more mindful, to set firmer boundaries? This lesson is the intact character, the mu, the core essence of wisdom that survived the mistake. Turn to the blank page, the present. Realize that the only way to honor the lesson is through present action, even if that action is simply kindness to yourself. You cannot fix yesterday, but you can choose your next breath, your next word, your next quiet thought. That choice is the fresh ink on the blank page of the present moment. Tonight, let the shame and the anger at your past self dissolve into this awareness. You are not defined by the one dark splatter. You are defined by the vast, beautiful, flowing characters of the thousands of actions that make up your life. Let the past be the soil that nourishes your sleep, not the stone that crushes it. Rest now, trusting that the greatest forgiveness is the decision to move forward with the wisdom gained. Part 5. The unfolding current, the wisdom of flow, Wu Wei. The modern world is obsessed with effort. We believe that the quality of our results is directly proportional to the amount of mental and physical struggle we employ. We pride ourselves on pushing, forcing, and grinding our way through obstacles. This exhausting belief system is what prevents us from truly resting and is the opposite of the deep Zen principle of Wu Wei, or effortless action.
Wu Wei is often misunderstood as laziness or passivity. But in the wisdom traditions, it is the elderly would simply step aside, allowing the student's own momentum to carry him forward until he stumbled and fell, exhausted and frustrated. "Master, I do not understand," the student complained, panting heavily. "I am stronger than you. I move faster than you. Yet you are never moved. You are like a great, immovable oak tree, and I am simply exhausting myself against your hardness." The master smiled and walked the student out of the dojo and into the garden, where a deep snow had fallen the night before. All the great oak branches were heavy with white powder, rigid and still. But the master pointed to a small cluster of tall, thin river reeds at the edge of the water. They were bowed over, almost touching the ground, completely covered in snow. "Look, my son," the master instructed. "The oak tree is strong, yes, it is rigid, but if the snow continues to fall, the burden on the branches will become too great, and the rigid wood will snap, shattering under the weight. The oak resists the flow of nature." He then pointed to the reeds. The reeds did not resist the snow. They were flexible. They bent their stalks all the way down to the earth, giving way completely to the heavy, quiet pressure. And as the master spoke, one of the reeds, having bent far enough, suddenly sprung back up, launching all the snow harmlessly from its stalk. It stood tall, clean, and completely undamaged. "Which one is truly strong?" the master asked. "The one that breaks under a small burden, or the one that bends completely and survives, ready to spring back when the moment is right?" The oak breaks. The reed, because it allows itself to give way, remains whole. This is the profound strength of Wu Wei. The practice of flow is the practice of flexibility over rigidity. We are often like the oak tree in our minds. We hold on to our ideas, our plans, and our schedules with rigid, unyielding force. When life sends a snowfall, an unexpected delay, a canceled appointment, a change in circumstances, we refuse to bend. We fight it, we resent it, and we push harder. And the inevitable result is that we break. We snap. The bending of the reed. And often, it is this very act of letting go of the effort to sleep that allows sleep, like the swift current, to simply carry you away. Breathe in, flexibility. Breathe out, surrender. You are whole. You are safe. You are moving with the flow of the moment. Rest now in the quiet, effortless grace of the unfolding current. The web of volition, understanding gentle karma. As we move deeper into rest, we arrive at one of the most powerful and often misunderstood concepts in Buddhist wisdom: karma. In the Western mind, karma is often thought of as a cosmic balance sheet, a punitive force, or simply fate. Bad things happen because of bad karma. This view creates fear, anxiety, and the exhausting need to prove ourselves worthy. But the Buddha's original teaching on karma is far more gentle, profound, and centered on the present moment. The word karma literally means action, and the Buddha emphasized that the true seed of karma is not the outward deed itself, but the volition, the intention behind the deed. Simply put, our karma is the energy of our silent, daily intention. This teaching is beautifully illustrated in the story of the monk and the small stone. A senior monk, known for his calm and gentle presence, was walking with his young disciple along a narrow, rocky path. The disciple noticed the senior monk paused before every small, loose stone or branch on the path, gently moving it aside to the bank before continuing. The disciple, a young man eager for grand, impressive spiritual practices, finally spoke up. "Master, we must hurry to the village to give our evening Dharma talk.
Why do you waste so much time with these small, insignificant pebbles? Surely our true work is the grand, selfless acts, curing a sick person or feeding the poor. The senior monk stopped and looked at the pebble he had just moved. He held it in his hand, smooth and unremarkable. "My son," he said, his voice quiet, "the Dharma talk will be heard by many, and that is good. Curing the sick is a great kindness, but these are the grand, visible actions. The most
Stream, shaping the path for your future, moment by moment. It determines your underlying state of being. The profound comfort in this teaching is the realization that you are not being judged by a divine scorekeeper. You are, quite simply, living in the world that your own daily intentions are constantly creating. If you carry the intention of frustration, resistance, and judgment in the small moments, that is the world you will constantly meet. If you cultivate the quiet, soft intention of ease, acceptance, and kindness in the small things, you are gently reshaping the landscape of your future. Tonight, as you let go into the deep sleep, let your final intentions be clear and soft. This is your most powerful karma work. Release the frantic intention to solve, to fix, or to control the night. Replace it with the intention of rest. Release the intention of self-criticism. Replace it with the intention of gentle compassion for the human effort you made today. Imagine your consciousness as a great, quiet spider weaving a vast, invisible web. Every thought of kindness, every moment of patience, every small act of non-harm is a small, quiet thread of light. You are not building a monumental structure. You are creating a soft, supportive network of ease for your own future self. Allow the intention to rest to become the strongest thread in the web. Feel the release of your shoulders, your jaw, your hands, the physical symptoms of your daily strenuous intentions. Now, let the soft intention of, "I am safe, I am at peace, I let the world be, so that I may be," sink deep into your bones. This is the gentle karma of deep rest. It will be the seed of your peaceful, waking tomorrow. Sleep now, in the quiet assurance that your presence, unburdened and kind, is the truest good you can offer the world. Part 7. The Great Emptiness. Resting in shunyata and non-self. We have come to a point of ultimate surrender, the quiet heart of all Mahayana and Zen teachings. The concept of shunyata. Mountain. A young student complained to his master that he could not find peace. "I try to meditate," the student said, "but my identity is so heavy. My worries about my future, my fears about my past, they all cling to me like old heavy armor. I cannot shed the feeling of being this small, solid, separate self that is always struggling." The master did not answer right away. He simply took 2 vessels from the shelf. One was a heavy, ornate bronze bowl, intricately carved, covered in history and detail. The other was a simple, clear glass vase, completely transparent and empty. The master filled both vessels with water and held them up to the dim light. "This bronze bowl," the master said, holding the heavy vessel, "is the self you believe you are. It has a history, a fixed shape, and a deep color. It is beautiful, yes, but its nature is to be heavy and to be defined by its edges. When you pour water into it, you only see the reflections of the bronze. It is too busy being a bowl to simply contain." He then lifted the clear glass vase. "This is your true nature. It is anatta, non-self. It is empty of any fixed form. It is purely transparent. When you pour the water of life into it, you see the water itself, purely, clearly, without the distraction of the vessel's fixed identity. The bronze bowl, if it is dropped, will crack and the water will spill everywhere. The heavy fixed nature is fragile. The glass vase, in its clarity, in its emptiness, shunyata, of fixed color or history, is infinitely adaptable. It holds the water cleanly, and its true beauty is only revealed when you see through it, not at it. The master set the vessels down. You are wearing the heavy bronze armor of a fixed self, and you are exhausted by the effort of keeping it intact. Tonight you are invited to rest in the true nature of the clear glass vase. The comfort of non-self is the complete release of the effort to be someone in particular, the self you fight to maintain. The good person, the successful worker, the patient parent, is just a temporary arrangement of thoughts, memories, and roles. It has
You rest in emptiness. You are resting in a place that cannot be harmed, a space that is already whole, already complete. Let the clear, effortless nature of non-self wash over you, dissolving the heavy armor of identity. Deep rest is the natural result of this profound, spacious freedom. Part 8. The Return Home. Dependent Origination and Wholeness. We conclude our journey into the quiet wisdom of Zen with the concept that brings all the preceding lessons together. Paticca Samuppada, or dependent origination. This is the ultimate teaching of interconnectedness, the profound realization that nothing exists in isolation. Everything is linked in a vast, seamless web of relationships. This understanding is the final permission to let go of the feeling of separateness, the illusion of the struggling individual unit, and to rest in the comfort of ultimate wholeness. To illustrate this final integration, consider the story of the seed and the mountain. A young monk had spent 20 years in solitary meditation, striving to understand the true nature of his self. After 2 decades, he returned to his master, discouraged. "Master," he sighed, "I have searched for my true self and found nothing. I feel empty. I feel like an illusion. I have looked within, and all I find are fleeting thoughts, passing feelings, and a body that changes daily. I cannot grasp the I." The master did not offer a complex lecture. He simply stood up, walked to a small pine tree growing in the monastery courtyard, and pointed to it. "Tell me, my son," the master asked gently, "where is the true self of this pine tree?" The monk frowned. "It is in the wood, the roots, the needles, the life force." "But is it?" the master countered. "The wood requires sunlight, which comes from the sun, millions of miles away. The roots require water, which comes from the mountain's snowmelt, years in the making. The needles require air, which is a blend of gases produced by other plants. The life force requires the space of the courtyard, which required the stone foundation of the monastery, which was built by humans who were permission to rest. You do not have to hold yourself together because you are not a separate piece that can fall apart. You are a natural, integrated part of the everything. The anxiety about carrying emotional burdens, it dissolves when you realize your heart is not a small, isolated bucket, but a vessel connected to the boundless ocean of shared being. The guilt about past mistakes, it softens when you realize the person who made the mistake is already gone, replaced by the present moment's integrated flow. The fear of the future, it vanishes when you realize that the future is not a path you must forge alone, but a web of dependent origination that is unfolding perfectly and naturally, with or without your effort. Tonight,
Let go of the notion of the separate I that must fight for its survival. Surrender to the realization that you are already home, already whole, already complete. Rest now, not as someone who has problems to solve, progress to make, or a life to control, but as a perfect, essential part of the vast, quiet harmony of the universe. Feel the incredible lightness of being completely connected. Let the stillness of the mountain, the flow of the water, and the quiet light of the moon become the texture of your deepest rest. Nothing to do, nothing to become, nothing to achieve, just this. Just resting, just home.